things just got a lot more interesting when it comes to the Detroit Lions coordinator watch. And that is the fact that according to Ian Rappaport just a couple hours ago at the making of this video, the Dolphins have requested to speak with Lions defensive coordinator Kelvin Sheppard for their vacant head coaching job, source said. A rising young coach who impressed this season, Sheppard gets his first head coaching interview. First off, congrats to Kelvin Sheppard, man. Kelvin Sheppard is my second favorite coach, staff member on the Detroit Lions roster with the Detroit Lions team behind Dan Campbell. Love Kelvin Sheppard as a coach. He's just a phenomenal coach. Now, obviously, he struggled there at the end of the year, but also a lot of his players weren't healthy, and that's no excuse. I'm not using the injury excuse whatsoever. But Kelvin Sheppard also dealt with the injuries midseason when the defense was still performing, I would say, very well. And the Detroit Lions, if you don't remember, had a top 10, top 8 defense in the NFL at certain points this season, specifically early to midpoint of the year is when they had that defense. I believe their defense really started to fall off, obviously go down to that late in between the 15 to 20 range and the 20 to 25 range late in the year, but around week 13, 14, I want to say is when it was, and I think the end of the year is the 23rd total defense. Obviously not good, but when you watch the film, this guy, in my opinion, especially off of just 1 year, is a better defensive coordinator than Aaron Glenn ever was. I think Aaron Glenn, his best year was obviously this past year with us, his last year with us. And Kelvin Sheppard, even in his first year as defensive coordinator, I think arguably had just as good of a season as Aaron Glenn did with his best with the Lions. So, Kelvin Sheppard, this is well-deserved. I mean, this is well-deserved. If Aaron Glenn got a head coaching job, I think Kelvin Sheppard should get a head coaching job as well. He has the locker room, Kelvin Sheppard does, in a big way. He's a great leader. And what I really love about Kelvin Sheppard is what he does with the team when it comes to calling man coverage plays. Now, the Lions, obviously, at the end of the year, decided to do a lot more zone for whatever reason. I really hope they go back to man. That's not because the Lions just did not play well on defense at the end of the year, per se. But I like the team playing man a little bit more. You got really good cornerbacks in DJ Reed. Terran Arnold's finally showed promise here before he got hurt and was ruled out for end of the year. And if you do end up bringing back a Meek, I think he's a lot better in man coverage than he is zone coverage. And obviously, especially once you get back BB, that'll be a huge, huge addition to that defense as well. But also, man coverage. He's one of the best man coverage safeties, slot cornerbacks in the whole entire NFL. So, granted, we don't know when we're going to get BB back. Obviously, suffered a torn Achilles. Hopefully, we get him back through a quarter of the next season. Probably won't get him back to start the season, but hopefully we get him back for at least a quarter through next season. And hopefully he's not going to be out until around midseason like Lee McNeil was first this past year. Had a similar injury when it comes to torn ACL and when it comes to recovery length. So we'll see what happens there. But Kelvin Sheppard, first head coaching interview will be with the Miami Dolphins. And this is really interesting when it comes to the Detroit Lions. I think it's a win for both sides. I think it is a win for both sides. If Kelvin Sheppard gets this head coaching job with the Miami Dolphins, it's a win for both sides. He obviously needs to take the opportunity if it's there. I'm glad he's getting the opportunity. I think he would change that whole organization around from a team leader aspect, obviously going from Mike McDaniel, who could be our next offensive coordinator, which is funny enough. But it's just going to change the whole vibe. I think, obviously, if he was to join that team, you see guys like Tua go to a different team if he's not going to already. But I think you'd see stuff like there'd be a lot of changes, to say the least. I think Bradley Chubb would be a player that would probably be on the watch to potentially either get cut or traded. I think they would do a lot of smart changes if Kelvin Sheppard was to be brought in. And the reason why I think it's a win for the Detroit Lions is because this opens the door for them to get an experienced defensive coordinator. And the guy that I'm specifically watching now, I made a video about it about a week ago, about should the Detroit Lions keep Kelvin Sheppard. I said yes. Even if the Dolphins don't hire him, we should absolutely keep him in Kelvin Sheppard. But if they do decide to move on, could a guy like Raheem Morris become the Lions' next defensive coordinator? And that is something I'm definitely keeping an eye out now, especially if Kelvin Sheppard gets the head coaching job with the Miami Dolphins, because then it's an extremely win-win situation. You get Raheem Morris, who is a two-time Super Bowl champion with the Rams, a two-time head coach. He's been in this league a long time. Most recently, as the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Not been a good head coach throughout his career, but has been one of the best defensive coordinators, defensive minds in the NFL over the past decade. And you bring him in. Dan Campbell's always talked about over the years as well how much respect he has for Raheem Morris. And this is great. I mean, this is the best case scenario for the Detroit Lions. Yeah, it's gonna suck to lose Kelvin Sheppard if he does take the head coaching job with the Miami Dolphins. It's gonna suck. I mean, you're gonna have a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator, both most likely outside the organization, and it's gonna change most likely the scheme once again of that defense. However, you're getting a guy who has Super Bowl experience, which is your goals for next year, but also who has been a great defensive mind, and you're not putting in another rookie. Say, like example, just hypothetically, a guy like Deshaun Townsend, maybe you were to promote Deshaun Townsend, our DB coach, to defensive coordinator if Kelvin Sheppard was to leave. You're not going to be forced in that position since a guy like Raheem Morris is on the market. Now, from what I know of, Raheem Morris has not had any interviews for a head coaching job elsewhere. And now, if I'm wrong, we've put that in the comments down below. But I have not seen that he's interviewed anywhere else for a head coaching job. I don't even know if he's interviewed anywhere for a defensive coordinator job at this current moment. But this is a big win for the Detroit Lions and for Kelvin Sheppard as well. And obviously, you got other guys out there as well on the market when it comes to the defensive side who the Detroit Lions could bring in. But I think Raheem Morris is definitely the one I would be looking at right now. And if the Detroit Lions were to bring in a guy like Raheem Morris to replace Kelvin Sheppard, I think it's arguably an upgrade. I don't want to say that because I love Shep, and I think he's going to take off if he does stick with us as defensive coordinator next year. I think he's going to take off as a defensive mind and become one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL next season and upcoming years if he stays with us. Kelvin Sheppard obviously has a lot of potential, but you're playing it safe with Raheem Morris. So we'll see what happens there. I hope Kelvin Sheppard gets the head coaching gets the head coaching job with the Miami Dolphins. He deserves it. He's a great coach. But if he doesn't, obviously I'd love for him to stick around. But this is a win-win for both sides, so in my opinion. So leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think it's a win-win for both sides? And is there other guys you think that Detroit should go after if Sheppard leaves to become our new DC? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below.